Welcome to the Action Network studio in New York City. I'm Maria Marino, and this is Green Dot Daily. We're live every weekday at 3 Eastern on the Action app, and if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Coming up on the show, we'll have a handful of picks for the NBA in-season tournament semis, including some from yours truly. We'll also hear NHL picks for tonight from Michael Leboff. But we start with Thursday Night Football, and here are the most popular props per BetMGM. Najee Harris to score the first touchdown. Ezekiel Elliott to score a touchdown anytime. Deontay Johnson to go over 4.5 receptions. Chris Boswell over 1.5 field goals. And Elliott over 60.5 rushing yards. Let's welcome in Sean Koerner, a.k.a. the Odds Maker. Some may say this isn't the sexiest matchup on paper, but why are you excited about this game, Sean?
Because it's an NFL game. Whenever there are two NFL teams playing each other, I'm super excited about it. I mean, you're talking to somebody that bets on basically every preseason NFL game. I mean, I was watching Tyson Bagent and Tommy DeVito months ago. So now, we have a game with even more things to bet. So I'm excited for this.
And you always make it interesting if all else fails. Before we get into props, how would you go about betting a side here?
Well, I already bet a side here. I took the Patriots plus 3.5 in the first half at minus 120. I mean, I would bet this down to say minus 135. That's how much I like it. And let's face it, this game ain't pretty and should be a low scoring affair. I'm sure, Al Michaels, this matchup is probably as appetizing as a crudité platter. But, we've seen this total drop below 30 at times at some books. Something that hasn't happened in the NFL since the early 90s, which is when I first started watching football. But, the Patriots have only scored 13 points combined over the last 3 games. But, according to our expected score model, which fuels our luck rankings, obviously, their expected score has been around 14.5 points per game over this last 3-game stretch. So, they haven't been playing well, but, the results certainly haven't reflected, how their offense has been playing. So I expect them to put up some points here, but I mainly think that the Patriots' stout run defense that ranks second in DVOA in the league will be the reason they stay in this game, because that's typically what the Steelers want to do, is run the ball. So I think they're going to have a tougher time there. And this is a luck ranking game. It has a difference over 30%, which, anytime we've seen a luck gap that big over the past 6 seasons, has gone 27-7 against the spread. So a lot of trends alike here for the Patriots. And the reason I like the first half is just because the Steelers typically get off to slow starts. They've only averaged 6.5 points in the first half this season. And they've only had the lead at the 5th lowest rate in the league. So they're not a team that really gets off to fast starts. So I like locking in the Patriots at the key number of plus 3.5 for the first half.
Sounds like a plan. Patriots are averaging the fewest points in the league at 12.3 per game, but they are super competent defensively, as you noted. Now, to your props, we'll get your official pick in a moment, but which one just missed the cut?
Yeah, so the Hunter Henry under 2.5 receptions, I think, just missed the cut. Bailey Zappi's completion prop tonight is only 15.5 for the game. Granted, some of the potential risk of getting benched in game for Mac Jones, it seems like they're playing musical chairs at quarterback recently, is probably why. So maybe the team projection's a little bit higher, but either way, we're not expecting many completions from the Patriots tonight, which means not as many receptions to go around. This is also not an ideal matchup for Henry, as the Steelers defense, plays man coverage at the 5th highest rate. And Henry, like most tight ends, tends to have less receptions against man coverage. And the Steelers defense has been amazing against tight ends this year. They rank 3rd in DVOA against the position. But however, the reason why I'm not on it is, ever since linebacker Quan Alexander went down in week 10, their coverage against tight ends has been a little bit more susceptible. And then last week, Landon Roberts went down as well. So Michael Walker actually had to step up, in coverage, and Trey McBride had a big game. So if Roberts is, ruled out or limited in any way, I think, Henry might be more productive. So that's why for now I'm kind of staying away.
Do you think that you might change your mind if for any reason, like if it gets closer, or are you
Yeah,
like
I'm not
pretty much?
No, I mean, I'm leaving the door open, of course, if I feel like it. If we get news that Roberts is active 100%,
Gotcha.
maybe I'll pull the trigger. But a lot of the bets I'm going to be rooting for, I wouldn't mind if Henry has a big game. So that's why another reason why I'm staying away. But this is, last game, I shied away on Mixon, and look what happened. He crushed
Right.
his prop. So maybe I should have just stuck with my gut.
I mean, in general, I'm getting a little off topic here. I'm just prolonging the inevitable. I'm making people wait for your official prop. But like, are you the type person, like, I feel like you're not the type person, like, as it gets closer to kickoff that you're gonna like pull the trigger on something. Like, you usually are probably like settled like well before game time, or is that completely wrong?
Oh, it depends. Yeah, like if something happens, if they post a prop on a player that they haven't offered all day long and it's a bad line, that's usually when I will pounce.
Mm,
It's just tough. Everybody's had time to look into these, and the market typically gets sharper.
mm,
But yeah, if we get closer to kickoff, we get those scrub backup tight ends or backup receivers. Those lines get posted. That's usually when I pounce closer to kickoff, or if like there's any breaking news.
mm. Of course. Timing is everything, and the markets certainly get sharper after you come on the show, and they're about to get sharper right now because we want to know your official top prop.
Yeah, so I'm going with the defensive player prop. We're going with Joey Porter Jr. under 3.5 tackles and assists. It's down to minus 140 right now. I still love it there. I think this is very likely to hit. The second round rookie has been amazing this year for the Steelers. Took over as a full-time player around week 9 and has been one of the best cornerbacks in the league since then. He's cleared this in 3 of 5 games since then. Typically, really good corners don't rack up a lot of tackles because opposing teams don't throw their way. But he's been on island. He's been covering opposing teams' number 1 receivers over that stretch. So he's been battling against DeAndre Hopkins, Amari Cooper, Lamar Chase, and then last week Marquise Brown before he went down. So those receivers will still get targets no matter who's on them. So he has been able to rack up some tackles. But tonight he's going up against Devontae Parker and Tyquan Thornton for most of the game. So, not really inspiring wide receivers there. I would expect Bailey Zappi would maybe just target whichever receiver Porter isn't on and not force the ball Porter's way. And Porter, how good he's been this season. He's only allowed a reception per 21 coverage snaps, which is the best rate in the league, just ahead of Jalen Ramsey. So he's been really good this year. And as I mentioned earlier, Zappi's completion prop tonight's only 15.5. So there's not that many receptions, potential tackle opportunities for him to begin with. And he's not too involved in run defense. He typically doesn't line up in the slot. Usually a slot corner can be involved in run defense. He's not really involved in that either. So not really many passes for him to clear this. So I'm projecting it, closer to 2.8 tackles and assists with about a 68% chance of staying under this number. So I'm not too worried about the minus 140 here.
Joey Porter Jr. I picture so many more people like in front of their TV screens, like looking for him. Like, where is Joey Porter Jr.? I know I'll be doing that. Sean Koerner, thank you so much for giving us your prop.
Yep. If you're looking for him, he'll be where the ball isn't. So.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Good luck on your NBA props tonight.
Oh, thank you. You can catch more Sean Koerner this evening at 5:30 Eastern on Action Island when our NFL crew votes on the most attractive props on the board to build a same-game parlay. Gilles Gallant will be joining that show, but first he's here with us. Take a listen.
Here are my 2 touchdown score picks for Patriots Steelers, brought to you by the Action Network app. And my first pick, I'm going to go with Ezekiel Elliott. I grabbed his touchdown odds at plus 240. Now he's got 2 touchdowns this year and 14 red zone carries. So he was getting work with Ramondre Stevenson in the lineup. Now Stevenson is out due to injury, so Elliott should see at least 15 carries. And one of the few positives from the Pats offense that hasn't scored a lot lately is they do have the 5th best run block win rate, and the Steelers' run defense been pretty average, 15th in DVOA versus the run. They did give up 2 rushing touchdowns to James Conner last week. Now Mitch Trubisky is in at quarterback for Pittsburgh. Patriots defense could force some turnovers and get a short field, and if that happens, Zeke should be able to punch it in. And my next pick, we're going with a long shot. We're going to take Bailey Zappi at 16-1. Now, a small bet, quarter unit. And it's another primetime game with another quarterback with inflated touchdown odds. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't expect a lot of touchdowns in this game. But for the same reason we took Jake Browning, the odds are just too much to pass on. Quarterback touchdown odds for pocket passers typically ranges from plus 500 to plus 800, so at 16 to 1, I'm willing to take a swing that Zappe scores after a DPI in the end zone, or maybe even a desperation third down run from the 1 yard line. So those are my 2 picks. We're going to take Ezekiel Elliott and Bailey Zappe, both tracked at the Action Network app. Bon chance.
Keeping it in the NFL, check out this line movement for the Patriots Steelers total. It was at over under 34 on Sunday night, but has since moved to 30. And even at that number, 85% of bets and 95% of money are coming in on the under. With that, we bring in our director of research, Evan Abrams. Do we think this total will dip even more before kickoff, and how significant would that be?
Oh man, so I have alerts set on my iPhone, my iPad, my computer, my beeper for this total. I want to know when it moves. I got a beeper. Well, I need to know when this moves and how it moves, because this is really the story of the week. So in terms of history, dating back to 1980, no total has ever closed below 30. In my opinion, I think this one before kickoff will probably get there. You mentioned the tickets and the money. So not only that, you have a bit of a market movement situation. I think you also probably have 2 things. You've got the primetime unders trend. Now I understand overs a little bit of a stretch lately. I believe 3-4-0 heading into the weekend. But overall, I think people will look at that and probably want to get in. And I think the second thing, simply FOMO, like fear of missing out. Like this is the story. Even on PTI yesterday, they're talking about the over-under on Thursday Night Football. Like, where have we headed in 2023 and 2024 where that is the conversation? But it's fantastic. So I believe you're going to see a 29.5 at most books, and that'll be some history.
And why is that history? Like, I mean, this has not happened for a while.
Yeah, altogether, 3 games. Now, this weekend as a whole, you've got so many low totals from that Jaguars-Cleveland game to this New England-Pittsburgh game. So 3 games all in the same weekend, closing below 33. Hasn't happened since 1993. It has been a long, long time since we've collectively seen these types of totals. Now, it's kind of a vortex. We actually talked about this a little bit before we came on air, but between backup quarterbacks, we could have 9 this week. Weather, where it's getting cold, it is December, and the wind. We actually have like 5-6 games potentially across the league that could have 10+ mile an hour winds. And that's, 110 and 55 to the under last 3 years. So pretty large sample and almost no scoring. So that's kind of the situation.
Okay. Well, you talked about in regard to tonight,
Sure.
primetime unders being such a prevalent trend all season. You started to allude to it, but I mean, is there value there in your opinion?
Okay, so gambling is an actual game. This is a tough one, right? Like, because you are dealing with such a low total. Now, I've seen people say there's probably some value in some of the props, right? Neither team to score 20 points, neither team to score 2 touchdowns. There's certain props out in the market there that if you think the game's going to go under, you might get a little bit of plus value. But let me just start with this. TAN projections had this at 30.9. So we're pretty much in order right now. There's no wind in the game, which to me is actually kind of interesting. So last decade, totals of 37 or less are 32, 13 and 1, 10, 2 and 1 this year. So wild numbers, but worth noting tonight's game, no wind. So 5 mile an hour winds or less. It's only 7 and 6 to the under with those totals. So to me, without that element and just the assumption of so many injuries and bad quarterback play, it's just not a play for me. It's just too low, especially when coming down from 34, it was even higher, and you've gotten all this pull. Now, it is interesting to know all those 32 and 13 numbers is the closing number, right? So if you got anything above that, it's even higher win percentage. But God, I just think it's a pass.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, the Steelers have had their issues at quarterback for sure, but just the fact that the Patriots are involved in this game, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes under that total, just because, I mean, points have been hard to come by for them, but I understand why you're staying away. Evan, thank you for joining the show.
Definitely. Thank you.
How does NBA Happy Hour sound? It's a 5 p.m. Eastern tip between the Pacers and the Bucks for the first in-season tournament semifinal. The total is a whopping 257. That's the highest in the last 30 years, according to Evan Abrams. In the nightcap, We got LeBron James and the Lakers, 2-point favorites against Zion and the Pelicans. LeBron's points prop is set at 27.5. For picks on these games, here's Sean Little and Jay Money from our Buckets podcast.
I don't do this very often, Jay Money is money, if ever. But I think this is a very good spot to do it. Give me the little same game parlay. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 25 plus points, Bucks on the money line. I see this as a very nice way to get the juice down on the money line for the Milwaukee Bucks. So I see this as a perfect way to get the money line on the Milwaukee Bucks down from that 180, 185 number to minus 125, minus 130, depending on where you end up putting this ticket in. Because if Giannis and the Bucks get the W, he's scoring 25 points. I'm not worried about that. That's the cap on the reason I like the same game parlay. I just think it gets me a better price. And if they get the W, Giannis is going to at least score 25.
And when you look at the Pelicans here, this team has defenders, especially coming off the bench. Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, got Jose Alvarado coming off the bench as well. Valanciunas isn't horrible. Zion Williamson can get up there and get some blocks. You see what I'm saying? But when you have AD over there on the other side, I feel like it's going to be tough for both teams to score from the paint. I do think that while the Pelicans have been trying to run a gun lately, these in-season tournament games have been like playoff style type of games. You see not a ton of fouls called. It's a rough type of game, playoff style type of game. I'm expecting this pace to be a little bit slower here, a lot more methodical basketball in this one. So with two top tier defensive teams coming in, I was thinking about first half under, but I think both of them cash first half under and full game. I don't think this one gets past 220 points in my opinion. Both of these teams, like I say, are top tier defensive offense on the starting five and coming off the bench. I think these guys can lock up, man. I forgot to mention Najee Marshall as well, man. So have you heard not on Herb Jones, man? This team, they both have really good defenders. And Anthony Davis looking like he could be the defensive player of the year so far as well, man. So and they got Jared Vanderbilt back as well. Give me an under in this game, man.
So I bet on both of these NBA games as well. And in the case of the Pacers and Bucks, when the spread was at 5.5, I like the Pacers, but now it's at 5 or lower. So give me the Bucks. Back on November 9th, the Pacers beat the Bucks by 2 points in a game that Giannis dropped 54. So I see a pretty big revenge factor playing out here. Plus, the Bucks are playing way better lately. They've won 10 of their last 12, and only one of those wins was by fewer than 5 points. Now, in terms of the Pelicans and Lakers, I like the Lakers -2 here. Although technically a neutral court, I expect many more Lakers fans to be in attendance out there in Las Vegas. This is also just the type of spot I don't see LeBron James allowing his team to lose, let alone lose big. I mean, he carried the Lakers against the Suns. He's averaging 26, 8, and 8 in tournament play and just playing like a man on a mission, clearly cares about what's at stake and getting another trophy for his case. Over to hockey. Patrick Kane is making his debut tonight for Detroit after signing a 1-year, $2.75 million contract. And 6 months removed from hip surgery, the longtime Chicago Blackhawk is a 3-time Cup champion and second all-time in assists among active players. As we say hello to our NHL expert, Michael Leboff. So the Red Wings are playing the Sharks tonight, who have the most losses in the league at 17. What's your play on this one?
Can you guess?
I could. I'd rather you just, come right out and lay it on us.
Yeah, it's the Sharks. Gotta bet the team with the most losses in the NHL when you get the chance. And but San Jose, believe it or not, has been playing pretty well. I think we can maybe upgrade them to the 31st best team in the NHL, not the 32nd best team in the NHL right now. They're 7-7-1, and since they lost, I think 10 in a row to start the season, there were a couple 10-goal losses in that span. So everybody wrote them off. I think I wrote them off maybe a little too late during that span because I kept betting them, and they'd give up 10 goals pretty quickly. But as our colleague Stuckey likes to say, when a team is declared dead by everybody, that's the right time to start betting them. And they've proven that to be another bit of wisdom from our good friend Stuck, because they're 7-1 since that losing streak. They've won 4 out of their last 6, I believe. So this team they're bad, but they're not like historically bad, which is what everybody thought they were. And here they are at a big number against a Detroit team that is like they've been playing well. They have a very clear process and way they want to play. They like to keep games predictable, limit scoring chances at their in their own end, almost at the expense of creating scoring chances at the other end, because they'll bet on their clinical finishers like Alex DeBrincat and playmakers like Dylan Larkin to come out ahead in some low event hockey, and then throw Patrick Kane into the mix. We'll see how well he does there, but they bet on themselves in these low event games, and that's a little dangerous when you're laying this kind of number, because all the Sharks are going to need is some decent goaltending, maybe a couple bounces, and they'll be right in this thing.
To reiterate, Leboff is not afraid of the ugly teams, the ugly bets, and that's where you look to find the value. Anything else on the slate jump out at you?
Yeah, we can head to Canada now. Why not? Beautiful day here in the Northeast. We'll go a little further north into Canada's capital. The Ottawa Senators are a home underdog against the Toronto Maple Leafs, plus 110. This number's bounced around between 110 and 120. So be sure to shop around and see what you can get. But I like the sense here. This Maple Leafs defense wasn't good when it was healthy, and it's far from it right now. It's far from healthy. They're without 3 regulars. Their best two-way forwards aren't having great seasons in terms of like a 200-foot game. So they're giving up a ton. Joseph Woll has had a really good season for them in goal, and that's masked some of their defensive deficiencies and allowed them to get wins. And in a crazy stat, the Maple Leafs actually have fewer regulation wins than the aforementioned San Jose Sharks. They are doing a lot of damage in overtime, in the 3-on-3 and in the shootout. That's where they've been collecting the majority of their wins. It's a very dangerous game to play. If you're going to keep playing games to coin flips, eventually you're going to come out on the wrong end of them. So I like Ottawa here. The Sens are they should start trending up. They've been pretty good 5-on-5 of late. They just haven't played all that much hockey. They've had a really weird schedule, so it's been hard for them to get into a rhythm. But I think that this is probably the right time to get in on Ottawa, because I do see them starting to trend up, and at that time the value will be gone.
Well, we appreciate the warning on that. While we have you here, one of your specialties, in addition to hockey, is darts. And I'm told the PDC World Championship starts next Friday. So I know you're dying to tell us, who are some of the names you're betting?
Yeah, this is the best betting event of the season in all sports. I believe. I truly believe that. And you always have to throw a couple darts for the darts before Christmas time comes at the Alley Pally, the Alexandra Palace. There's a couple names, one of which is James Wade. He's a guy I bet all the time in this tournament. He's a very experienced player. He's never won it, and I think that's why his number always drifts into this range, because he still is one of the, he'll be like the 8th to 12th best player in most years, as he's still in his darting prime. He's one of the best finishers in the league on the PDC, which means he hits his doubles really well, which you have to do to close out a leg. He's a very cool, calm, and collected customer. Someone who he has a tendency to lose early in tournaments, but if he doesn't, always watch out. So he's someone I like to bet. Long shot I like at 70-1 is the smudger, Ross Smith. He's in a really good quarter of the draw for some long shots. I have another one I'll talk about in just a couple minutes here in the same part of the bracket. He is a scoring machine, whereas James Wade is a great finisher. Smith is a great scorer. So he sets himself up into great situations and sometimes just loses his cool as he needs to close out and hit a double. But I'll trust his scoring. He's always around the top 10. I think this year he was 7th over 12 months, and even better than that over the past few months, more recently. And this quarter of the draw with Michael Smith, the defending champion, in bad form, is wide open. So this is the one I want to target, and that's why I also like Krzysztof Ratajski, another guy I like to bet all the time at this tournament, to very little success, but he's 200-1. The Polish Eagle, he's a fan favorite. I would say he's quite a character. He's kind of reserved, but all that tension builds up in him, and he usually lets it out in very weird moments. But he is in that same quarter as Ross Smith and is more than capable of going on a run. He's got some big titles in his career. He's won some big matches. He's beat some of the best players in the world on his day. He's really hard to contend with, and he's a very just stable, consistent player. So if this quarter of the draw just falls apart, he can definitely be the guy to pick up the pieces.
I can't say I've ever watched a professional darting event, but you're giving me a reason to think about it. Like, I'm intrigued. Like, what does this even look like? So
Beer Fest and on Ecstasy / March Madness. It's
okay.
out of this world. It's hard to explain just how much fun it is, but it will change your life.
I'll have to see for myself, and I'll get back to you on if it changes my life. Michael Leboff, thank you.
You got it.
Remember, any picks we give out here on the show, you can easily reference by following Green Dot Daily in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to.
1, 2, 3.
That's all for this episode of Green Dot Daily. I'm Maria Marino. Thanks so much for hanging with me, and I'll see you back here Friday to close out the week at 3 Eastern on the Action Network YouTube channel and the Action app.